So yeah, I finally got around to finishing DanDaDan. I'm gonna have the same issue just like I had with Bo. Both of those animes just I'll probably get it eventually, but for now I'm just gonna say it was a breath of fresh air. I was taking a long break from watching too much anime and I was just getting burned out. This anime was relatable. It maybe not in the concept of, getting your balls stolen by a ghost or something, but it's relatable in the sense that the characters feel lifelike. They feel real. They have their flaws, their gimmicks, and it feels like pretty much how you would actually see teenagers in a high school to act. Like, I feel like too many animes, they take these teenage protagonists, and I understand like fantasy worlds like One Piece and Naruto, where the teenagers kind of have to act differently because their world is like, you kind of have to grow up fast in those worlds. But you have like isekai animes and just high school animes where the teen protagonists are acting like adults pretty much. They're way more mature than your average teenager. So yeah, I really like to see the awkwardness that you see in the main characters, Momo and Okarun, whose real name is Ken Takakura, an actor that I looked up afterwards.
So hopefully got a nip in this building who speaks fucking English.
Assistant Inspector Matsumoto Masahiro, Criminal Investigation Section, Osaka Prefecture Police. And I do speak fucking English.
Now, to be fair, the concept of ghosts, monsters, what have you, versus aliens is not entirely new. As you could tell with DreamWorks' Monsters vs. Alien, they got that genre down to a T. Also, for example, like Turbo Granny, a character you would think that's super original, but really isn't. And it's an actual folklore. I remember seeing it in Persona or Shin Megami Tensei, where you could capture a tame it, whatever. Same with like Acrobat Silky. So it is cool that these yokai that you see and the aliens are based off of actual real-life mythology. The fun part is that you get to see them actually flesh out these yokai and these creatures, giving them backstories and what have you. Case in point, episode 7, which was a real tearjerker and a sucker punch to many because they thought this was just a haha comedy, romance, shonen, what have you. But then they came in and it's like, well, I did not think I was going to be invested on these feelings, but here we are. Like, the entire animation of that episode was beautiful, music beautiful. The manga was a bit more direct in how the mother ended up passing, but I still like how they did it in the anime. It was really artistic, but I feel like many people didn't understand that she jumped off the building while dancing. Most people think she bled out or whatever, but it was a good choice, I would say. But the issue is, to get to episode 7's perfection, some people had to go through the wackiness of episode 1, which might be a bit too much for some people. I heard a lot of complaints of people saying they just didn't feel comfortable with the whole aliens, attacking and putting that main character in a horrible situation. But you need to realize that this is based on actual, accounts of aliens stripping people down, abducting them in the middle of the night, and probing them, and then erasing their minds afterwards. So, yeah, there's not really a lot of consent there. But yeah, it does show up again in, like, the last episode where Momo, she goes to a hot springs, and then, of course, creepy guys show up there as well. But based on the manga, I would say that is the only weird scenarios they get into. So thankfully it's not for the sake of just, violating characters. Like, as much as I love Berserk, it has a bit of an excessiveness to it. I know it's a dark fantasy. The world is filled with, depression and just monsters left and right, but it got a bit too much sometimes. Like, a bit too much. But yeah, all in all, I would say those scenes are supposed to be disturbing because, well, they're monsters, they're villains, they don't really care about anyone but themselves. So there's that. Also, if we want to dive into other mythos like Zeus, for example, you're not gonna like what you read because he didn't stop at anyone or anything for that matter. The guy had no limits and he violated everything he could see. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it was added in for the sake of just adding it in. But I could see why people are uncomfortable with it. I was also uncomfortable with it, but I was like, yeah, this is stuff that aliens would definitely do. Yeah, besides like the animations, the visuals, the character interactions, the opening is one of the most unique openings I've seen in a long time for anime. It definitely gave me that Cowboy Bebop vibes with the way it was stylized. And then, of course, the song just constantly stuck in my head, even now, which is surprisingly, usually an anime opening is maybe 2 weeks at max running in my head until I get tired of it, but I'm still using this in my gym playlist. So I'm even listening to like English covers because goddamn, that beat is just so sick. What I also like is whenever I got interested in a show, I look into the manga artist, and I found out the manga artist used to be an assistant for Fujimoto, the maker of Chainsaw Man. And well, the thing is that he needed advice on how to make a manga that he enjoyed making. And when he asked Fujimoto, the answer he was given is just be weird, man. Just go all out, be weird. And I think that is probably the best advice to give someone, is to not limit yourself. Just go nuts. If you keep like focusing on how to perfect things, you're never even gonna get there, like getting your pen to paper in that fashion. It's the same with any project in life. If you constantly are thinking about, oh, how am I gonna do this, how am I gonna perfect it, you're not gonna even start. For example, me, when it comes to making videos, I'm like, oh, I need to think of a script. I need to think. No, just turn on the camera, talk like I'm doing now. Who cares if it doesn't get 100 or thousands of views? I enjoy what I do. Just keep doing it. Eventually, you'll just keep stacking up and getting better and better. To be honest, looking more into it, I don't know if Fujimoto really did give that advice. It sounds like he did, but again, it's internet hearsay. But I did find a confirmed source of this like page that says that his editor was the one who told him to just draw freely because he was having a sort of writer's block, drawer's block. There's a lot of hearsay, like I'm trying to find it, but there was like a saying that he worked as a convenience store owner before making manga, and he used to just draw on receipts, and one of his managers saw that and said, hey, why don't you try and become a manga artist? And that was the start of his journey, apparently. Again, hearsay, but the confirmed parts I found about his story, his origin, is pretty inspiring, actually. But yeah, then they show like sketches here that he drew freely, like no direction, just whatever came to his heart, he just draw it. You could see the inspiration that later went on to DanDaDan. Hey, I actually said it right that time. Cool. But there's also a video of him actually drawing and talking about his origin. So that one has more confirmation. But the issue is it doesn't have subtitles, so I have to rely on a comment on the internet. And the comment from Charming Sage 7611, give credit where credit's due, basically says that he was just talking about his characters, how he came up with them, and he talks about how he was inspired, the whole concept of ghosts versus monsters, from a movie. That movie being the one where the Grudge and the Ring Girl are fighting. I watched that movie. That is... It's not scary as much as it is ridiculous, sort of like Freddy versus Jason. The ending was bizarre. They like combine into one creature and then they fall on this one human girl in the well. They become one it was some sort of chimera mess. Very disturbing. If you watch like Chainsaw Man, the opening, you could definitely see it being referenced there. One of the scenes where they collide over the well. it was a fever dream of a movie, but I could see how that inspired DanDaDan, because as you go on, he talks about how he liked the horror aspects of like Junjo Ito's work, but he never really wanted to be pure horror. He wanted to put a spin on it, which you could tell from the get-go when watching the anime that the monsters are creepy, but they're given a bit of a ridiculous characteristics to make them not as like horror movie levels scary. But yeah, it's just a bunch of like random ingredients you wouldn't think that would stew well. A rom-com, aliens, horror, yokai, ghosts, creatures, whatnot, and yet it works. The comedy, the drama, the action, it all just works together in a way that I feel like is very familiar to me personally, because my all-time favorite anime is Gintama, which funny enough also has a plot where the main character's golden balls get stolen by yokai, and then eventually there's a whole arc where he gets it stolen by aliens. He has to go find the aliens. It's pretty funny, especially the fact that the anime of DanDaDan actually made a reference to Gintama with the eye patch, so that's cool. Gintama definitely has that vibe where it could be dramatic at one moment, where it could be comedic at one moment, it could be a tearjerker at other moments. It could be the best shonen you ever seen at some moments. You never know what you're going to get. And I feel like DanDaDan really has that in a more bite-sized manner for modern-day audiences. I kind of wish people would go back and give Gintama a try, because that stuff is a masterpiece, man. Like, the reason why I like DanDaDan so much is that I care for the characters. Like the slice of life aspect, I feel like many people sleep on or just reject. My friends in general hate it, but they love DanDaDan. And I say the reason why it works in shows like Gintama and whatnot is that slice of life, it builds that relationship between the viewers and the characters. You actually give a crud if these characters are put in a situation where they could be injured or they could potentially die, and how that would affect other characters. Like, you're never going to see those comedic episodes again, right? Spoiler alert, that happened in Gintama, and that's when you could tell, we're never going back to those good old days now, are we? So it definitely gives a certain weight to it. One Piece does it as well, I've noticed, but I really see it fleshed out a lot in like Gintama and whatnot. Going back to the manga, definitely pick it up, because some of these art panels, you can't miss it. Like, this stuff, it's really well drawn. Like, the anime did it justice with animation and whatnot, but I feel like it's still like the medium of the manga. It's its own thing. You really have to like appreciate it for what it is. I remember this being the first panel I ever saw this like recommended to me, and I was like, yeah, I kind of want to pick this up. Definitely something interesting. And the fact of the matter is that these aliens reminded me of those weirdos from that strange YouTube video, the 3 a.m. thing. I don't know what it was, the soup. But yeah, all in all, I would say it's a bright future for anime if this is the pace. I'm looking forward to Sakamoto Days, which is pretty similar to Gintama. They share the same voice actor too, so that's a plus. Yeah, I'm just glad anime is going back to character interactions mixed with action. Jujutsu Kaisen, I love it a lot, I really do, but I kinda wanted to see more characters fleshed out, because it's just fight after fight. And the fights are great, the animation's great, but eventually you get to a point like it's... Why is this character, fighting over here? Like, what's the beef here? You kind of want to see more of like lore and stuff, and you don't really get to see that. But I mean, every anime's got their pros and cons. Not to say that like DanDaDan is like Shakespeare level of work that it should be like put in a time capsule, but it's definitely just something refreshing, something that makes you want to just sit back, relax, and get to know these characters on a day-to-day basis kind of thing. At least that was for me with Gintama. And the action is like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like a puzzle piece being solved in real time. So yeah, I guess I'm just a fan of just bizarre anime with like a heartfelt story underneath. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. That's all there is.